Good morning. My name's Debbie Cafazzo. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees of Tahoma UU Congregation. As we begin our gathering, I respectfully acknowledge that I'm speaking to you today from occupied Puyallup ancestral land. I pay respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to their descendants and to all Indigenous people. We welcome all who join us with a longing for community, a hope for peace, and those who are seeking justice. We're a diverse congregation that encourages each one of us to find their own truth and belief. We invite you all to join us in a search for meaning and community, guided by reason, respect for each other, and love. The great thing about this virtual platform is that we have an opportunity to welcome guests outside our traditional geographic area. So a special welcome to new friends and returning friends from near and far away. I invite you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Links to the video version of this service will be posted there this week, as well as on our website. You can find all of our program announcements this week in our e-news, and they're also listed on our church calendar. But here are some of the highlights for this week. Following today's worship service at 11:30, children are invited to Kids Chapel with Nancy Slocum, our Director of Religious Exploration for Children and Youth. After service today at noon, Doug Taylor hosts Drop-In Chalice Circle. This month's theme is, what does it mean to be a people of story? That sounds really interesting. You can find the small group materials for this month's theme in the e-news. If you don't already subscribe to the e-news, you'll find a link posted to the e-news on our website under the, you guessed it, the news tab. Also, following worship service today at noon, the Sabbatical Committee will host a discussion about Reverend Linda's upcoming sabbatical this summer and into early fall. If you'll recall, Linda delayed her lengthy sabbatical last year because of the situation with the pandemic, and we thank her for that and look forward to her having a great sabbatical this summer. So you can join the discussion today or another one that will be held on Sunday, May 23rd, to hear about the plans for what's going to be going on while Linda is on sabbatical. One thing that a lot of you will be anxious to hear is that we'll be working again with Joe Rettenmeyer, who some of you will remember from earlier this year. Also, during the summer months this year, we'll be joining online worship services with Saltwater UU Church in Des Moines and Northlake UU Church in Kirkland. And we'll have worship leadership will come from each of the congregations. So you'll be hearing more about that later. And our Board of Trustees is continuing to monitor the Pierce County's COVID updates as we plan for when we will be reopening the church building for worship services. And you can read a little bit more about that in the e-news. One of our primary considerations is to be inclusive, and that includes when we can safely welcome our kids to return to the building with adults. We're also looking at ways to gather small groups and to find opportunities to meet face-to-face, likely with masks on, and we'll update you when we have more information on those kinds of opportunities. So lots going on in the coming months. Next Sunday, May 16th, our Widening the Circle implementation team will lead our worship service, and they'll also help us consider what it means to place a Black Lives Matter banner on our building. This service will be followed by a discussion at noon to continue that important exploration. And next Sunday at 2, our Pacific Northwest District will host the district annual meeting. If you'd like to attend and want to be a delegate, please email the board at board@tahomauu.com. That's board@tahomauu.com by tomorrow, so board leadership can assign the delegate credentials. Links for all of our programs and more information can be found in the weekly e-news or via the events tab on our church calendar. Thank you again for your ongoing financial support to our congregation that makes all of these things possible. Programs, staff who create and facilitate the programs, and the connections we make through our congregation. Now, let us prepare to gather and worship.
Good morning, my friends. It's good to be together today. Our opening words are from Gretchen Haley. Every little thing that breaks your heart is welcome here. We'll make it a space for it, give it its due time, and praise for all the wanting it represents, the longing for something more, some healing hope that remains not yet. We promise no magic, no making it all better, but offer only this circle of trust, this human community that remembers. Though imperfectly, we sing and pray, though sometimes awkwardly. This gathering that loves, though not yet enough, we're still practicing after all, still learning, still in need of help and partners, still becoming, and still able to receive all this beauty and all these gifts that we each bring. It is so good to be together today.
As we prepare to light our chalice, please, if you would like to light your chalice along with us, get ready. As Nancy Slocum lights the chalice, the words for the chalice lighting are in the chat. We light this chalice in deep respect for the mystery and the holiness of life, in honor and gratitude for those who have gone before, with love and compassion for those who dwell among us, and with hope and faith for the generations to come.
Good morning. My name is Nancy Slocum, and I am the Director of Religious Exploration for Children and Youth here at Tahoma Unitarian Universalist Congregation. It is nice to be here with you this morning on this Mother's Day, a very special day for many people. I know when I think about mothers, there's a lot of people I think of. There are a lot of people who mothered me over the years. My best friend's mother was big in my life, and my aunts were big in my life. And of course, my mother was big in my life. And I was thinking how some months ago, I talked to you about my father. And we were talking about Veterans Day, I think, and I shared some of his experiences as a veteran. But I thought today I'd just take some time to talk about my mother and lessons from my mother, because she was just a really important part of my life. And when I take time on Mother's Day to remember her and think about her, I think about all the wonderful things she taught me. She taught me a lot about kindness. She was a really good friend to people. She was always, taking gifts to people, or maybe making a meal for somebody, or baking a cake for somebody who she just thought needed a pick-me-up, or going and spending time with friends when they were feeling like they needed somebody with them. She was just a really good friend to people, and I saw her over and over again think about what somebody needed to feel better and go and tend to them. It was just really sweet to watch her, and she is well remembered by many people for all the kindnesses she shared and showed to people. she was also someone who thought it was really important to kind of watch out, to make sure that we were being fair and kind to one another. We talk a lot here about being fair to one another. And I learned from my mother a lot about that. And to speak out when you think something is not good or not fair. Back when I was growing up, the United States was involved in a war in Vietnam. Maybe you've heard about this war, maybe not. But there were a lot of people who supported the war, and a lot of people were fighting the war in Vietnam from the United States. But there were also a lot of people in the United States who thought this was not a good war, that we shouldn't be fighting this war. And my mother felt very strongly that we should not be fighting this war. And she had to do something. She really felt it was important that people knew that she did not support this war. So she got together with some of her friends, and they all chipped in money to take out an ad in a newspaper. Now, we don't have newspapers very much these days, but it used to be newspapers that get delivered to your home in the morning. And the way that the newspaper, it costs money to put a newspaper at somebody's door every morning. And so they would sell advertisements to different businesses. So the grocery store would have an advertisement and say, bananas are 14 cents a pound, or, milk is on sale. And they'd put these advertisements in the paper. So she took out an advertisement, she and her friends, a full-page ad, which actually cost quite a bit of money to do this. They took out a full-page ad and said, we don't think this war is a good idea. We don't agree with this. And they felt it was so important that they spoke up and that they shared that with the whole community. And so there was this full-page ad saying, we don't believe in this war. Not only would she speak out about things that she saw were unfair, she would do what needed to be done, like putting that ad in the paper. Or I remember when I was in high school, she had just taken up golfing. She loved to golf. She just started golfing and really was loving it. And one day she called up the golf course. She wanted to make a tea time. It's not like drinking tea, but a golf tee, the little wooden tee that you put a ball on, and they have what are called tea times. And it's a reservation to say, I'm going to be at the golf course at this time, because they have to make sure that there's enough space for the people to golf. And she called up and she said, I'd like a tea time for 10 o'clock Saturday morning. And they said, okay, who's this for? And she said, well, it's for me. By the way, her name was Paula Lincoln Slocum. She said, it's for me. And they said, oh, we're sorry. Tea times on Saturday mornings are reserved for men. You said, what? Only men can golf on Saturday mornings? What's that about? And they said, well, men work all week. And so we save those special Saturday morning times for the men who have been busy working all week. And she said, but I work all week. I go to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Why can't I golf? Well, it's just our rule. So she didn't think that was fair. She thought about how she wanted to be able to golf on Saturday morning, and she thought about other women she knew who maybe wanted to be able to golf on Saturday morning. And she worked hard. She went to the people who could put a little pressure on the golf course, and they ended up changing their rules so that men and women could all golf on Saturday morning. I told you she took up golf kind of late in life. She was in her 50s. And I think that's another thing I learned about her. It's like it's never too late to to learn new things. In her 50s, not only did she take up golf, but she went back to school to get her college degree. So she was nearly where she was going to retire from work, but she loved her work so much, and she loved what she was learning in her work. At that point in her life, she was working as a social worker in a nursing home. And she wanted to learn more about how she could be a better person helping people who were living in the nursing home, older people. And she went back and got her college degree in her 50s, she wasn't that much younger than I am now. So she taught me it is never too late to learn and to grow. And finally, she met my father. She was a nurse in her early years. And she met my father because he was a patient in the hospital where she worked. She worked in an Army hospital. And My father had been wounded in the war, and she took care of him, and they fell in love. But they had a bit of a problem because they went to different churches. One of them, she was Catholic, and my father went to a Protestant church. And people back then thought Catholics shouldn't marry Protestants. And she had a priest tell her that this man she was going to marry was a child of the devil. And she thought, you know, I know this man that I'm marrying, and I know he is a very good man. I know he is full of love and kindness and compassion, and there's no way he's an evil person. And she decided to marry him anyway, even though her church, the priest from her church was telling her that wasn't a good thing to do. They ended up being married for nearly 60 years, and it was a very loving marriage. But from that lesson, I learned that sometimes we need to think for ourselves, think what feels right for us. My mother did what felt right for her. I really appreciate that lesson. So one last Mother's Day note. My brother has been cleaning through some stuff that belonged to my parents, and he discovered a Mother's Day card that I wrote to my mother when I was about 6 years old. And I drew a picture of a couple of cats, one small and one bigger. And here's what I wrote in it. See if you think this is a good Mother's Day sentiment. A kitten for Mother's Day would be very nice, especially if it eats up mice. And if you get a cat that's very fat, you'll know that it's been eating a rat. So with that, happy Mother's Day. And I say to you all, we hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life, we hold you in our love as you go. Take care. Enjoy your day.
Thank you so much, Nancy. We now come to the part of our service where we ask you to help support the church that means so much to all of us. Now is the time to offer our financial gifts to the work of this congregation. Thank you for your consideration to support our church during this unprecedented time apart. You may follow the link in the following slide or the link that is currently in the chat to text or your donation or contribution to the church. I want to thank you from my heart for those of you that have contributed and made donations on Sunday and have made commitments to the year in supporting this church. Every little bit helps, and while we're physically apart, our gifts are stronger together than ever. Thank you so very much. We now move into the dedication of that offering that has been made. That also will show up in the chat. We dedicate ourselves and our offerings to the work of this congregation, weaving a tapestry of love that we call community, both within and beyond these walls.
My friends, I invite you now into a time of quiet and reflection, meditation, prayer, or simply resting in the stillness as is most your custom. Begin with some words. From where have we come? This breath, these fingers, a heart that opens and closes, opens and closes. What is it that has made this body, feet and legs, hair and teeth? We come into consciousness in the middle of the story. The world and its vast life reaches far beyond far before we knew, and grasps at the future that we cannot see. And here we are, born into this world and living these days for better or for worse. Whatever acts of chance occurred to bring us to birth, whatever happenstance laid this particular path for our lives. In these moments of calm and stillness, let our hearts open in gratitude for the gifts that can be found along the way. For love given, sweet and free. For the peace of the morning and the warm colors of sunset. For the grace of companions and the moments of ongoing birth as our hearts are renewed. And for those who have offered us the gift of mothering, no matter their age or gender, those who have tended and cared, those who have offered support and comfort, who have stood by and stood with us, those who have given us life by birth or by the blessing of their presence in our lives. I invite you, as you are moved, to put the names of those who have given you life, however you define that, into the chat, and Bob and I will read them aloud. Rebecca,
Carrie,
Nellie,
Carol Henley,
Brenda,
Isla,
Tammy, Diane, Melody,
Barbara Hawkins,
Anna Mae,
Adele,
Grandma Purdy,
Nancy Hilda Lamb Oliver Senate Tryon,
Thelma,
Jean,
Anne,
Beverly,
Eleanor Summer,
Teresa, Andrea, Nellie, and Lily.
I'll add Mary and Stevie,
Leela Bishop,
Joyce, Nancy, Pat, Amelia, Ruth, Roberta, Violet, Violet Murphy, Eleanor, for all these named and those who we hold in our heart, but who are unnamed, we give thanks and praise. So may it be. Amen.
Our reading this morning is by Mary Oliver, called Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for hundreds of miles through the desert, repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of rain are now moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things.
I'm going to tell you a bit of a secret this morning. Every year, it seems, as we approach Mother's Day, my ministerial colleagues and I start getting nervous. In our private conversations, we ask about whether we need to talk about Mother's Day on Mother's Day Sunday, or if there is anything else under the sun that is new to say about it. We complain to each other about the sentimental and idealized images of mothers. We worry, honestly, about those people who desperately want to be mothers, but who aren't. We worry about those who have lost their mothers and who are in grief. I have to say that I very clearly remember the Mother's Day that was just 8 days after my mother's memorial service, and how it stung my already broken heart. And then there's the even harder moments of Mother's Day, when a parent has been abusive, perhaps, or our family life has been a struggle, when there aren't those sweet memories to call up, only feelings of loss and harm. Sometimes it seems like the only thing that we can legitimately say about Mother's Day is it's complicated, but that's not nearly enough to say. And it's important to talk about it, and to talk about it in church, because a significant part of our spiritual journeys, I believe, is finding a place of peace and acceptance for what has happened to us, for what we have done and what we have not done. To find that sweet spot of equanimity about our own lives again and again and again. Since the beginning of the year, I've been reading a little bit of Buddhist teacher Pema Chödrön nearly every day. And I have found her work very, very helpful in sorting out my own complicated journey as both a mother and as a daughter. Buddhist practice, as I'm sure many of you know, is centered on meditation, but it's meditation with a certain particular focus. You know, I think about the number of misconceptions that I've held about meditation. The chief among them, I think, that we carry with us is a notion that meditation helps us become calm and relaxed. The Henry David Thoreau Boundless Way Zen Sangha, the participants call the Sangha Hank. It's located in New England, and on their webpage, they say this: if you are looking for relaxation, you may find it more fruitful to explore a technique called progressive muscle relaxation. Zen practice may lead to relaxation, but then again, it may not. The Zen tradition regards relaxation as a potential side effect and not so much the goal of the practice. But if you are looking to learn a variety of techniques that might help you relax, a fabulous book you may enjoy is Meditation and Relaxation in Plain English. Pema Chödrön writes, when we start to meditate or to work with any kind of spiritual discipline, We often think that somehow we're going to improve, which is a subtle aggression against who we really are. Meditation, along with the practice of extending loving kindness to ourselves and all being, is about, firstly, befriending who we are. It's learning how to come to our own hearts with honesty, curiosity, and compassion. And I tell you, my friends, that is not work for the faint of heart. To release the stories we tell about ourselves, about who we are and how we are in the world, is some of the most arduous work you'll ever do. To come to awareness of our own reactivity and to view it with compassion and care is authentic and often very painful work. What is really annoying about all of this, though? What is most annoying is that when we see ourselves more clearly and befriend it, the pettiness, the dysfunctional behaviors, and the patently untrue stories that we tell ourselves don't disappear. They're all still there. Our greater awareness means that we get some choice about how we continue on in our lives, given all that we know about ourselves. But that doesn't mean that all the behaviors and the stories go away, only that we gain perspective and can interrupt some of them more quickly. When I say that the insights of Buddhism, and in particular these writings, help me make sense of my own complicated life as a mother and a daughter, I mean that they help me find a place of peace around my experiences and relationships. Some of you will have heard me talk about my mother, how much I love her, how much she meant to me in my life, how my calling as a minister is deeply related to her commitment to Unitarian Universalism and Unitarian Universalist congregations. But she was also a dedicated alcoholic, for example, and taught me how to follow in those footsteps too. For example, I was in my late 20s before I discovered that not everyone in the world traveled with a bottle of their favorite liquor in their luggage. It was just how things were done in our family. At least that's how I understood it. Before you packed for a trip, you went to the liquor store and you bought a fifth of your preferred hard liquor. For me, it was scotch. For my mother, it was vodka. I learned the practice of drinking steadily throughout the evening from her, and I kept it up in my own life, typically drunk before bedtime. One morning, after many mornings of suspecting this to be the case, one morning I woke up and knew without a doubt that I had to stop drinking or it would kill me. And so I have been sober. Blessed all the good things that can come of that and all the things that helped that happen. I've been sober since a day in late December 2007. Finding peace with that, my own behavior, my own failings and falling down, my mother's teaching of me how to be a good alcoholic, has taken time. Forgiveness of myself and of my mother has taken time. And then there is my own mothering. Jackson Browne sings in one of his songs, "Don't confront me with my failures. I have not forgotten them." That could be my theme song around parenting. It's not that I'm a particularly difficult or bad mother, but I am aware of the ways in which I have not done as I meant to do, and that the unintended consequences of choices I've made have had an impact on my daughter that I never could have predicted or understood until much later. You only need to be human, really, and aware with some measure of empathy to know that truth. Pema Chödrön tells us, we habitually string our thoughts together into a story that tricks us into believing that our own happiness, our pain, and our problems are solid and separate entities. In fact, these constructs are constantly changing. Each situation, each thought, each word, each feeling is just a passing memory. As I said, a significant part of our spiritual journeys is finding a place of peace and acceptance for what has happened to us, for what we have done and not done. It isn't to forgive necessarily those who have harmed us. It isn't to make us into better people. It is to create a greater sense of spaciousness for ourselves, which then enables us to have a choice about how we will go forward in our lives. It allows us the space to ask the question, what is needed in this very moment? How is it in this moment I can live out what I value most, whatever that might be? Is it kindness? Is it love in all of its many guises? Is it creating peace, especially perhaps peace in my own heart? In honesty, there is not much in this life that isn't complicated in one way or another. And yet there is also a simplicity that exists underneath it all. You can hear it in Mary Oliver's poem. She says, you do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to love the soft body of the soft animal of your body. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese high in the clear blue air are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to you and your imagination and calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. May we each and all find our place in the family of things. May we find those precious moments of peace and equanimity in all this complexity, in all that is our life. Amen. Let us pause now to take a few moments to reflect if there has been something in this morning's service, something in the words or in the music or in the stillness. I invite you to set an intention for how you will carry it out into your day. Let us be in stillness together. So may it be. Amen. Our closing words are by Barbara Peskin. Because of those who came before, we are. In spite of their failings, we believe. Because of and in spite of the horizons of their vision, we too dream. Let us go, remembering to praise, to live in the moment, to love mightily, and to bow to the mystery. Amen and blessed be.
As we come to the end of our service, we come to the time when we extinguish our chalice at the sanctuary and perhaps yours at home. In the chat are the words of the putting out of the chalice that Nancy will be doing. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. We carry these in our hearts until we are together again. Remember, there are 2 different meetings at noon today, just a few minutes away, about 45. And in the chat, I'm putting the information to those. They already are in the chat, actually. And the link to get to them. One of those is the meeting with the Sabbatical Committee for any of you that have questions about Linda's sabbatical, and also the drop-in cellist circle. Thank you for joining us today. This will be kept open a little while for you to put chats in should you wish to. I wish you a great Mother's Day, a peaceful Sunday, and a wonderful next week. Thank you so much.
From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.